Okay, Shiraj. Okay. Okay, so where was I? Like, can anyone remind where I was last time we were talking? Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, basically, the last time, like, yeah, before the interruption, I was talking about communities, how communities help you to stay motivated, how communities help you to get in touch with people, get in touch with people who might in the long run come like be beneficial to you. They might help you to learn, they might help you to get opportunities, but like at least for now, at least when we are starting out, we should just think about learning, and communities are really helpful in that. Like, you will find they will be sharing articles, they will be sharing resources, they will be sharing mm, UX review. Like, yeah, you will be sharing UX reviews. Like, uh, you will be getting to know the new tools. You will getting to know what is specifically trending in this field, and for all those purposes, getting into some good communities. Like, when I say communities, it is not always online communities. If you are in a suitable place, suppose like all of you, basically you are basically you were like all in like the viewers here, I'm sure they are all involved with the DSCs in your respective colleges. You have design tracks and all those things. Like, you will be having workshops also, I think. So even when you are in college, like after this talk ends, after you get back to college, now you are at home. So yeah, it becomes difficult to stay in touch with people. But what one thing you can do is you should try to like you should try to develop communities of your own. Like, here we have DSC, you like they will have events, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, maybe yearly. So you should not always like, it is not possible for anyone else to do all the things for you. And therefore, if you have friends who are also interested in UX design, you should stay in touch with them. You should not just talk to them about games, or you should not just talk to them about uh, other things, but you should also, like, it is fine. Like, you can make WhatsApp groups which are related to design, where you share whatever resources you can find. It may just have two people in it, maybe it will just have me and Anurag in it. And on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, whatever good find related to UX design, I'll be sharing it there. Anurag will find anything, he will be sharing it there. So even if you have two people, three people, you don't need to have a ton of people there to make it effective. Even with two people, what happens is like there becomes a mutual, what to say, uh, like a responsibility. So like if the other person is continuously being active in the group, continuously doing something related to UX design, and you are getting to know it, what happens is you will automatically get an urge to do yourself. And that thing is really helpful. What I'm saying, like, you may think that I'm super motivated, I like UX design, I'll just do it. But if you just go all the way alone, at times you will like deviate from your path. Specific, more particularly because none of you here are uh, full-fledged UX designers currently. At least all of you must be students of these respective colleges, and you have your academics to do, you have to think about your jobs. Like, even if you are interested in UX design, consider me, I have always been interested in UX design. But as soon as like my placement sessions came, I had to think about that, because I did not have the confidence. Like, okay, like I am a very good UX designer currently, and I should like forget other things and simply follow this field. I am not yet ready for that. But and because of all those reasons, like being building communities with them, and like, yeah, like motivation is really necessary. You'll like keeping track of your what you are doing, what your friend is doing, that really helps. And in that process, like it is always a good, like, since we are talking about staying on track, it is always good to make what to say, milestones for yourself. Like, you may think that, okay, like by the end of this year, I'll get to know, I'll learn UX design, I'll learn a lot of UX design. But saying something as abstract as that does not really help. So it is often a good idea to make shorter goals. So it may be like weekly goals, like since like as I do basically designing on weekends. So what I do is like uh, during the week, I just during the week I'm constantly getting things that I need to like. I constantly think that I'm get interested in. So I'll just bookmark one of those of these things, and then I'll put them like, okay, these are the things that I will go throughout this month. So setting shorter goals also helps. So yeah, that is how you can get into UX design. And it's mainly about practicing, because this field like two things, like if I summarize this whole topic of how to get into UX design, it will basically be 2 points. One is staying up to date, and the second is practicing. So because once you practice, when you are you will automatically develop a sense of what the user needs. Because uh, like technically it is not possible for you to know what everyone wants, but if you constantly practice, if you constantly take feedback from people, once you are done with 10, 20, 30 iterations of that whole process, once you are done with your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 projects, and you have done it like well, from designing to feedback, don't forget feedback. Designing is fine, but specifically in UX design, feedback is the most important thing, because here we are trying to design for others. UX design is not for ourselves. Like when we do art, when we are drawing something, it is for ourselves. But when we are doing UX design, it is not for ourselves, it is not for the designer, it is for the user. That is what you need to keep in mind. And therefore feedback is the single most important thing. You may not be designing as much, but if you are designing, like if I say if someone makes me choose between 10 design and 0 feedback, and 1 design and 10 feedbacks, I'll just go for 1 design and 10 feedbacks. Because when I'm complete designing a complete app, I'm basically doing everything. Like, and the one like once I know how to use those apps, making one app or two app won't make much a difference, but getting one extra feedback, that might really help to broaden your understanding of what the user needs. And that is the most important thing you should remember in your path to being a UX designer. Yeah, so maybe, yeah, that's with that I'll wrap up this how to get into it, and then I'll just we'll take questions, and then we'll get to know more. So Richard, do we have time to talk about design thinking? Yes, that would be good. Yeah. Yeah. What is my view on it? So yeah, that uh, since yeah, like I've been saying multiple times that it is an evolving thing, and you need to practice, you need to test, you need to get feedbacks. So I was not the person who did that, so I don't know the mentality behind that, or I have not read anything from the creators of those new icons. But maybe they're trying something, and mm, like maybe they're just trying something new, and then they might go back to it. So I think what they've done is not bad. I personally don't like the design as much as I like the earlier ones, but I think in this field of UX design, experimentation, getting feedback, that is fine, I think. Maybe so, maybe they're doing it as a test thing, or maybe they have a bigger picture in mind. But yeah, like if personal preference is asked, I like the previous ones, but I'm fine with this new ones also. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I have a question. Uh, like,
I
um,
saw
how do you not sacrifice UI for better UX? Like, how do you like know that this is enough? Like, this much UX is enough.
like, can you please repeat your question?
like sometimes like I face this problem when I'm like designing something or trying this. How do I not sacrifice like UI stuffs like for UX? Like I have to put the buttons reachable so that it's reachable and all of that stuffs. So how do I not sacrifice UIs? Like
So basically, you are just asking me like, how do you maintain the balance between UX and UI, right?
yeah,
Okay. So before I answer that question, like for the audience here, when I like, can you please turn off your mic? Yeah, I'm getting an echo. Okay. So for the audience here, I just like to say that when we say UI, basically we mean the visual part of those things, and when we say UX, we mean the functionality or the experience part of those things. So how we make a balance between those two? Uh, how we make a balance between those two is basically what one approach that I follow or many people follow is basically to design the low fidelity or the wireframe first, and then the high fidelity part. So when you're like, if you try to do both of these things, UI and UX together, then what happens is like, yes, there is bound to be clashes. But when you do the wireframe part first, so what do you do the wireframes, what happens is basically you are just focusing on mainly on the UX. So, and in my opinion, yes, UI is very important, but uh, UI is very important, that is true, but there but if you put some thought into it, you can find alternatives to every design. Like if this does not look good, you can find other ways. And similarly in UX also, what happens is like, you will find ways. So first I think you should do the UX first, you should do the wireframes, and then put the design on top of that. And then what happens is basically the clash between these two reduces. And after you're done with the UX and then the UI, and then what you should do is obviously like test. And if you think that okay, UX is good, UX is fine, if we shift it a little bit here and there, UX won't be affected too much, but the design will be affected uh, by a very high degree, then maybe you should make that change. Like, did I answer the question, Saurabh?
yes, we got it.
Yes, and one other thing you can do is basically, uh, it is called like A/B testing. When we say A/B testing, basically we are making two versions of a thing, and then we are giving it to two like different sets of people to use. That is one approach you can obviously follow. You can, if you are in a situation where you can't decide that whether I should go or I should go with that, then what you can do is go with both. Create two versions and have people test them, and then get the feedback. And after you get the feedback, maybe you will find a way to merge those two approaches. Does that make sense?
Yes, we got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Saurabh, let's start with the YouTube questions now.
Okay. So the first question is, yeah, I guess it's the same one. Like, between Adobe XD and Figma, which one is better? Like your opinion on it?
Okay. Adobe XD and Figma. Like personally, I just learned Adobe XD few months back, because before that I was making all my mockups and even my high fidelity things in Adobe Illustrator. So I learned XD few months back, and I know what a Figma is. Like I have seen a little bit, but I have not like gone deep into it. But I think these questions, like how whenever these questions come up, the main thing in my mind is like, even in my talk I've said that the tools are basically only a ways to the end. They are not everything you should think about. So what you can do is in XD, most of those things you will be able to do in Figma. What you can do in Figma, most of those things you will be able to do in XD. So if you are already comfortable with a thing, like if you have some experience in Adobe products, maybe it will be easier to use Adobe. And if you don't have that, maybe if you like think that Figma is better, I think Figma is also web based. So that is also a what to say benefit of big Figma, that it is web based and it can be used on any platform. So if those things matter to you, maybe you can go for Figma. But my personal opinion is this minor differences don't matter because they are competing with each other. And if one of them does not have the feature that someone else has within the next version or something, those features will come to this. Even XD is like on a constantly developing, like it is almost like beta. It's constantly they're constantly adding new features, constantly changing. So like people, there are people who do UX design in Adobe Photoshop also, not Illustrator. So I don't think that tools are that much important, but if you are comfortable with something, just go with it. And if you like know that thing, you will be able to do it. So those tools are should never be a concern. This is basically like that question, like should I go with C++ or Java for competitive programming? So there are people who will do in C++, there are people who will do in Java, there will be people who do it in Python. And at the end, it is what you know and not what the tool you are using. What you can achieve with the tool is what is more important. So don't focus, like to whoever this question was, like don't focus on the tool. If you're already using one of those, then just continue with that. And if you are like totally new and you want to get into it, just download both of those. XD is also free, and I'm not sure about Figma, but I suppose that should also be free. And like just get into those and like use them for a day, use XD for a day, use Figma for a day, and then you will know which one suits your needs better.
Okay, Bhaiya. There's one more question. Should we go with the trend or design something new? And how likely is it that the design you created is going to be accepted by the community?
Okay, that's actually a good question. Can you please repeat that again so that I'm not
Okay.
Can you repeat it again? Yeah.
Should we go with the trend or try something new in design?
Okay.
How likely is a new design to get accepted by the community?
Okay. So basically there are two parts, right? So should I design something new or should I just like follow the trend? And then the second thing is like what are the chances that my new design will be accepted by the community? So for the first question is, obviously you need to be aware of the trends. I'm not saying you that you should follow the trends blindly. For example, like since in my talk I mentioned the stories thing, I'll just refer back to it. So if you see the stories thing, some like any random app or any random product cannot just use, like if I'm developing a new app, I just can't blindly say, okay, this stories thing is the stories are basically trending, I should use them. Okay, that is one point that you can have your back of your mind, that stories are a good thing, and if I can include them in my design, maybe that will be good. But before using a trendy thing, you should make sure that that fits, like that is appropriate for the use case. You just should not use a trend because it is trending. You should use a trend if you feel it is appropriate for your particular use case. And then regarding developing new things, totally you should do that. You should make new designs. You should make new designs and publish them wherever, like in your portfolio or whatever. But whenever you design something, you should have a clear thought in mind. Like if someone is asking you, okay, why did you design this way, you should have an answer to that. And why I'm saying that is because that what like having an answer, like having the need to prepare an answer for those things will basically help you to think better. So you will not blindly do anything. You will just before making anything, you will make like look at the pros and the cons. Okay, if I use this design, what are the benefits, and if I don't use it, what are the benefits? You should make all those considerations. And if you think you have in your mind something that is better than what exists, you should totally go with it. And regarding the second question, what are the chances of it getting accepted? I think yes, there is, like I'll say there is a very good chance of getting accepted, because these trends are also created by designers. And if you are designing something, you are also a designer. So there is no difference between them and you, because if something is good, it is bound to get accepted. If you're designing something and I'm saying that it will be accepted worldwide, that may be a question, because that will depend on what your reach is. And but if you have a pretty good reach, at least the people whom you can reach, if you're designing something good, they are bound to accept it, they will accept it. There is no such thing that will not, like, whoever your users are, if you're, maybe like you're designing this thing for a company, maybe you're designing this thing for yourself, so if it serves the purpose, whoever is making you like do that, like whoever you are designing it for, they are bound to accept it. So don't worry about that. If you think you have a better solution to existing things, you should totally go for it.
Okay, Bhaiya. One more question.
Yeah.
Can you recommend some good freelancing sites for enthusiasts?
Freelancing sites, okay.
Yeah.
So that is actually very difficult. What why I say that is, uh, freelancing is not a new thing. This has been like going on for quite some time. There are, you'll find you'll find freelancers in every field. Same is with UX design. There are like tons of freelance UX designers. So like for those sites, I have never been successful on freelance sites personally. Maybe I have not given them enough time, but I have seen people getting like, not personally, but I have seen people getting mm, what to say, yeah, getting successful through freelance websites. Like for instance, there are websites like Freelancer, there are websites like, I forgot those names, I was trying some of them recently. But what happens is, like I don't have much experience, so maybe my answers will not be like very accurate. But what I feel is that those things are really, what to say, really saturated. Like you can say, like if there is a new website, like let us consider freelancer.com, like XYZ, any freelance website. What happens is that they will basically be to, like, if you think from their perspective, what is their aim? Their aim is to grow their business. And how will they grow their business? If they are able to connect good designers to good good designers to good what to say, customers, so good clients. So they don't want to take the risk with new designers. So if there is not if there are not they don't want to take the risk, because suppose they are connecting a client with a new UX designer and that person is not able to deliver, they will lose a client. And for them, clients are actually more important, because clients are actually paying the money. Freelancers are there because they want the money. So those who are paying the money always get the preference. So what happens is they are focusing on the client and they just want to make sure that they are giving it to the good designers. So what they happen is they will basically be choosing uh, from top to bottom. They will be choosing the best designers first. And when I say best, uh, it does not mean that you are a bad designer. You may be a very good designer, but if your profile on a uh, freelance website is not that strong, their algorithm won't be recognizing you as a good designer, because it is because algorithms will be doing those things. They are not manually mapping freelancers to what to say, manually mapping freelancers to the clients. So but personally I feel, if you want to get into freelance designing, I think it is better to build a network instead of going for those freelance sites. What you can start with is, uh, like, even I say that if you're good at something, you should not do it for free. But uh, but at least at the start of those things, you should like be open to free things. You should volunteer. Like for instance, what happens is, like for instance, there is you will see NGOs, you will see organizations, you will see uh, institutes who are in constant need of UX designers. So but they basically, if there's a new school coming up, like they are trying to design a website, they're trying to design a app, so you can volunteer there. Okay, so that is basically to build your profile, because a good profile is very necessary in your freelance sites also, in general also. So what happens is, if you do real life projects, at the starting you might need to do free projects to get some experience, but that will like be helpful in the long run. So my personal opinion is, don't stick to those freelance websites. Instead, try to do more projects like offline. Try to try to do some volunteer tasks and put them in your profile. And once you have a good profile, you can start approaching people personally instead of going through freelancers, because I think it is very difficult to get through their algorithm. So yeah, that's what I want to say about freelancing websites.
Okay, there's one more. As nowadays phones are getting larger, so what is your opinion in how should the UI evolve around this?
Okay. Okay, so the time is 5:30. Do we have any restriction that we need to end it by 5:30? Do we have something coming up? Okay. Okay, that's good.
Yes, this will be the last question. Okay,
Okay.
two questions.
So this question was regarding larger screens, right? How we
Yes,
need
yes.
to. Hmm, okay,
How the UI will evolve around this.
larger screens. So when you say larger screens, what do you mean? Because like if I see phones are like again getting smaller. Phones, like if you look at the Pixel phones or you look at those iPhones, they are not like going beyond a certain size. And then yes, there are bigger screens, in the sense there are bigger like there are 4K screens, there are 2K, like 8K screens. Those will be big size. So what happens is, like when you say how UX will get um, changed, I think uh, it will not get changed like totally, but there will be some additions. So because the small screens will still be present, small screens will always be portable, and small screens will always be present. So designing for small screens will not go away, but obviously designing for bigger screens will come into the picture. And what happens is, nowadays there are this things like, if you are like someone who is into web development, you will know basically SVG images. There are basically the concept of vectors that is coming up. So earlier, if you go back like 5 or 10 years, what used to happen is people will be using different sizes of images for different screens. They will be like, even in Android development, you will see that they are putting for different resolutions, different sort of different images of different sizes. But now what is happening is people are looking for what to say people are looking for solutions that will fit all those things. And so this concept of vectors is coming up. Even in websites nowadays, people will prefer SVG images instead of PNG images. So what happens with SVG images is they can be scaled infinitely. So things like those will come up as soon like as the screens are getting bigger. People will look for solutions that will work on both, that will not require manual interventions, that will be done automatically. So yeah, things like those things will come up, things that are flexible. And then for the bigger screens, you will see that mm, for the bigger screens, like I'm getting a little confused here, because when we talk about bigger screens, uh, we often think like when we talk about bigger screens, the pixel count will also be more. But what happens is bigger screens are generally placed far away from us. So if we look at phones, they are small, but they are placed close to us. But those bigger screens will be placed generally away from us, TVs and all. So what happens is you need to put those things bigger there, because they are being viewed from a distance. So even though the quality is getting increased, but I don't think like massively those, like there will be very big differences in those. Yeah.
Okay, due to time constraints, this will be our last question.
Okay.
Uh, as an UI UX and graphics designer, I earn up to like 10 to 15K per month on freelancing in Fiverr. And because of this, I lost interest in coding and development. So should I continue with freelancing or try for an IT job?
Okay, so basically this is, I like this question because this is giving me an answer to a previous question where someone asked me about freelance sites, right? So this guy is earning on Fiverr, so maybe you should look at Fiverr, right? We have an example of
Yeah,
someone who is earning on Fiverr. Okay, so the question here is like, should he like
continue with
continue with
freelancing.
freelancing, and should he go back to IT? Okay, so this is totally a preference thing, and that will totally depends on the, like, this will be very different person to person. So uh, freelancing. So what are the benefits of freelancing? So the benefits of freelancing, if we look at it, so like whenever we make a decision, we need to look at the benefits and demerits. So I don't want to give a direct answer to this, and I will instead just try to point out the benefits and pros and cons. So if you look at the pros of freelance design, so basically the what I think when it comes to freelance design is basically a level of independence, a level of freedom. You may, um, when you're doing freelance projects, if you're taking the projects, you may have the freedom to make timelines on your own. You are working for mostly for yourself, because I assume you're working alone. So you are working for yourself. Mm, you're working for yourself, so you can make the decisions all on your own. So that is a very good thing. I like personally, I think that is a pro. And then another pro will be basically you can take holidays and leaves whenever you want. And you may, like, there will be some situations where you may fall ill and then you won't lose your job. But if you're in a job and you are getting, like, you don't want to work for a month, you have to basically leave that job. You just can't say that I want to leave for 30 days. So from that perspective, there is a greater degree of flexibility in UX design, but in freelancing. But if you look at the cons, then there is obviously that thing about stability. So people are always looking for stability. There are people who want a stable job. That is why even now people are like, even though there are so many jobs in private, some people are still looking for government jobs because they want a level of stability in their life. So that is the con, that your freelancing profession will be a little less stable. Your income will not be uniform. At some months you may be, as you said, you are earning around 10,000 now. So there may be months where you are earning more. You are earning 50,000, 40,000, 30,000. But there will be months where you are not getting any projects, where you are not where you're not getting any projects, where maybe you will just not earn anything for an entire month. Maybe for even 2 months you are not earning anything. So if you are a person who can deal with those ups and downs, who can manage your life with those ups and downs, then maybe you should. And if you really like the thing that you are doing in freelance, then you should go with it. But if you look at the jobs again, there is a certain level of stability. Even jobs are nowadays not like, specifically since you asked about IT jobs, even jobs in any company, like even if I'm working on Amazon, there'll be people like yesterday's talk speaker was working in Google. So those are really good jobs. So from a company perspective, those are stable. But your job will never be stable. You need to constantly perform. Even if you are not performing there, you can lose that job also. So in today's life, if like especially in private sector jobs, there is, you can't get like 100% stability. So but comparatively, in comparison to your freelance job, it is a little more stable, even though it is not 100% stable. And then your income will be uniform. If your salary is X amount, then every month you will get X amount. Even if your performance was not very good in that particular month, you will continue to get that amount. But in freelance, that thing won't be there. So it totally depends on your conditions, on your financial condition, on your larger vision for life. If your ultimate aim is to be a master of oneself, you basically want to do your own thing, maybe you should continue with freelance design. But if your financial condition is not that good, you want those things to be stable, you want your income to be stable, you want uh, a certain security for your job, then maybe you should go back to IT. But if you're totally like, I would like encourage you, like if you have the, what to say, if you have the opportunity to continue freelance, maybe you should continue it. You should try it, because jobs, even if you don't get a job now and you get in freelance design, and after 1 or 2 years you feel that okay, this thing is not for me, even then you can come back to jobs. You can you can prepare for jobs, you can appear for interviews and get jobs even after 2 years, after 3 years. But although I'm saying that you can get jobs later, one thing I like to mention here is that don't sacrifice your, like, considering that you are an engineering student, don't sacrifice your degree. Like, I'm not saying that leave your degree, don't care about your degree, don't care about your grades and do that only. Like, since this is a one time thing, once you leave this engineering, I'm sure that, like, if you put so much time in freelancing that your grades and your degree comes in, like, trouble, then I don't think you will be able to fix it later on. So even if you want to do UX design and you want to do freelancing, you can, like, halt it for a time. Like, if you're in your fourth year or something and you want to make sure that this is your degree is also fine and this, then you maybe have to sacrifice freelancing for some time and maybe you'll have to do this. But in everything there is, like, uncertainty, and in everything, like, even if I tell you to go for a job today and you don't like the job, you can leave it and you can go for freelancing. Even from freelancing you can come to jobs. So don't think so much, like, follow your heart to an extent. Obviously I'm not saying that blindly do whatever you want, but look at your pros and cons, look at your current condition, look at what you want to do. At least, like, think for a few years, like what you want for the next few years. Like, obviously you have to think for the, like, longer goal also, but it is not always possible to worry so much about the future. So just think about the next few years, what you want in those next few years, and then maybe take a decision based on that. Like, does that, I hope that that gives an answer to your question.
That's fair.
Thank you so much, Bhaiya. And
Okay.
as we mentioned, due to time constraints, we have to end this session.
Okay.
And I'd like to thank, first of all, the viewers for sticking
Yes.
up and the moderators. And very, very thank you to you, Bhaiya, for joining us and taking out time and
Yes.
delivering this
So
wonderful
yeah,
talk.
before we end this, I like to thank you all also for inviting, even though I don't consider myself eligible for such a talk. Like, you all invited me and gave me this opportunity. I'm thankful for that, and I apologize for the disturbances that happened in the beginning. And I hope it was overall good.
Yeah, Bhaiya, it was very informative. So thank you so much.
Okay.
And well, I would like the audience to stay tuned up for the design workshop, which will be starting like very shortly within 3 minutes at 5:45 p.m.
Okay. So I
Thank you,
think I
everyone.
should drop.
Mm. Yes, Bhaiya.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Yeah,
Thank you, Rishiraj.
yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Arshita. Thank you, Anurag. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bhaiya.